Hello everyone, my name is Victor. I am the Occult Technician, and this is Mind War, Season 3, Episode 2. Mind War is sponsored by Victory Work Apparel. Use promo code Mind War. Join the Mind War today. Enlist at patreon.com/Mind War. Now back to the show. Welcome back to Mind War, folks. I appreciate you being here. We have a lot to cover today, so let's get started. In episode 1, we got to know Dr. Robert Monroe, creator of the Gateway Experience tapes and founder of the Monroe Institute. And we started working from his book, Journeys Out of the Body. And then in the second half of the episode, we did a deep dive into Wave 1, Tape 1 orientation. So today we're going to pick back up where we left off on Chapter 1 of Journeys Out of the Body. And then in the second half of the video, we're going to do a deep dive into Wave 1, Tape 2. So here we go. Journeys Out of the Body, Chapter 1. Not with a wand, nor lightly. So I'm going to read through a few different paragraphs here, and we'll discuss what Dr. Robert Monroe was talking about in Chapter 1. Here, the primary purposes for the release and publication of the material contained here are, number 1, that through dissemination as widely as possible, some other human being, perhaps just one, may be saved from the agony and terror of trial and error in an area where there have been no concrete answers, that he may have comfort in the knowledge that others have had the same experiences, that he will recognize in himself the phenomenon and thus avoid the trauma of psychotherapy or at worst mental breakdown and commitment to a mental institution. So folks, what Dr. Robert Monroe is talking about here is the reason why he wrote this book. And number 1, the first reason is he wants other people who've had these kind of out-of-body experiences to know that they're not alone, and that, they don't need to feel like they're going crazy, right? These are normal human condition experiences that have been found throughout the history of humanity, but they just haven't been classified properly and scientifically studied the way they should, and that's what he's been doing, and that's what we are doing. We are all part of this larger scientific experiment here. So, number 2, he says, the reason that he wrote this book is that tomorrow or in the years to come, the formal, accepted sciences of our culture will expand their horizons, concepts, postulates, and research to open wide the avenues and doorways intimated herein to the great enrichment of man's knowledge and understanding of himself and his complete environment. So again, Dr. Monroe is saying, there hasn't been a lot of formal scientific study in this area of research, and he hopes that this book will bring that about. So again, he said really he wrote this book for 2 types of people. 1, someone who has experienced, say, an out-of-body experience or some type of hypnosis event, and they didn't quite understand what it was or why it happened. Maybe they were afraid of what happened. He wants them to know that they're not alone. Number 2, he wrote it in order to get the scientific community involved and understand that there is something real and worthy of study here. And I'm going to add a third person, and that is you and I. We may have never, I never had any out of body experiences or anything like that prior to starting this work. But I knew that there was something deeper here with these tapes. We've talked about the tapes before and kind of the conspiracies and the lore surrounding them. And now, as a younger man, as a teenager, I had experiences with magic mushrooms and LSD that were very existential. They were very enlightening in many ways. So I knew that there was something more out there. And it's really been, for me, a way to kind of recreate those experiences and get a full grasp on what I was actually feeling during those trips, right? And we'll talk more about that in future. So let's see. So here Dr. Monroe is going to talk about a little bit about what he was actually feeling. He said his body would start to shake or vibrate. It was utterly powerless to move. It was as if I were being held in a vice. Shocked and frightened, I forced myself to move. It was like being pushed against invisible bonds. As I slowly sat upright on the couch, the shaking and vibration slowly faded away, and I was able to move freely. So I think one description of what Dr. Monroe was going through was what we know of as sleep paralysis. Now, I've had several experiences with sleep paralysis throughout my life, some of them very scary, and we'll talk about those in future episodes. Really, sleep paralysis, in my opinion, is just kind of falling asleep, but your eyes are still open. That's really what I dealt with, right? I could see into the room. I could see the room around me, but I couldn't move. That's where the paralysis part comes in. And the sleep part is because I knew that I was falling asleep. I started to have these kind of vibration feelings that Dr. Monroe talks about. But I knew something was off when the room around me began to change because I was now going into this kind of dream state, right? So it's interesting that he did start to have these sleep paralysis type events. And I don't know that he ever even mentions sleep paralysis in any of these books. So that may also not have been something that was quite scientifically researched or talked about at the time. But again, when you look back through history, the stories of sleep paralysis and the type of, entities that people experience while they're having them, they're universal throughout all humanity. These stories are told over and over and over again, and I think they can be easily attributed to sleep paralysis. So let's see. He says here, if there was no physical basis for the phenomenon, I thought it must be hallucinatory, a form of dreaming. Therefore, if the condition came again, I would observe it as objectively as possible, and it obliged by coming on that very evening. So one of the things that he wanted to do is, instead of trying to just get out of this situation, he wanted to actually observe it as closely as he could, kind of go along for the ride, right? You can think about it when you're on a roller coaster. You're kind of going up, 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 and you're getting ready, and now you start to come over that curve while you're going down. People that are very afraid, if they had the option, they would maybe just get out of the roller coaster at that point and not experience the actual excitement of going down the roller coaster, right? But he's saying, no, we need to hold on. We need to go with it, go with the flow and see where this takes us. It began some 2 minutes after I lay down to sleep. This time, I was determined to stay with it and see what happened rather than fight my way out of it. As I lay there, the feeling surged into my head and swept over my entire body. It was not a shaking, but more of a vibration, steady and unwavering in frequency. It felt much like an electric shock running through the entire body without the pain involved. Also, the frequency seemed somewhat below the 60-cycle pulsation, perhaps half the rate. Frightened, I stayed with it, trying to remain calm. I could see the room around me, but could hear little above the roaring sound caused by the vibrations. I wondered what would happen next. And he says, nothing happened. After some 5 minutes, the sensation slowly faded away, and I got up feeling perfectly normal. My pulse rate was up, evidently due to the excitement, but no more. With this result, I lost much of my fear of the condition. So again, you're going to find when he talks about this vibration that he feels as he's falling asleep or falling into the sleep paralysis or falling into this kind of hypnotic or out-of-body experience, there is a vibration type feeling. Now, personally, I don't feel that as much when I'm falling into these states of being, but when I come out of them. So just prior to recording today's episode, I listened to tape 1-2. I listened to it 3 times over this last week, and we'll get deep into it. But when I came out of the tapes, all 3 times, I had that residual vibration feeling. And it was something that, although I kind of woke up out of the tapes, and I did feel refreshed and energized the same way you would after taking a nap, you do have to kind of fight through those vibrational feelings and kind of get the chemicals that are associated with sleep out of your system, right? So let's see what else he has to say in chapter 1 here. Okay, so he says here, suddenly I became aware of the situation. I was wide awake. I could see the moonlight escape through the window. I could feel myself lying on the bed, the covers over my body, the pillow under my head, my chest rising and falling as I breathed. The vibrations were still present, but to a lesser degree. So again, when he comes out of these experiences, again, the hypnotic state, the out-of-body experience, this deep sense of relaxation, there is that vibrational presence that's still there. So the reason I want to say this over and over is so that when you do experience them, it's not something to be afraid of. It's not something to be worried about. Again, Dr. Monroe, through much of the early part of this book, talks about how worried he was. First, to talk to other people about this. He was very frightened about what was happening. He thought he was going crazy, right? But these are normal physiological experiences. I talked to you in the last episode about the hypnagogic state, which is the process that we go through as we fall asleep. And my goal is to learn more about the hypnagogic process, right? What are the chemicals that flow through our minds as we fall asleep? What is our body doing as it gets into these deep states of relaxation? But the most important part is there is nothing to fear, okay? These are, again, just normal physical states of being. So let's see here. He says, then I looked again. Something was wrong. This wall had no windows, no furniture against it, no doors. Okay, so this is Dr. Monroe talking about the first time he truly observed having an out-of-body experience, right? And so now he's talking about what he felt and what he was experiencing that first time. So again, he says, something was wrong. This wall had no windows, no furniture against it, no doors. It was not a wall in my bedroom, yet somehow it was familiar. Identification came instantly. It wasn't a wall, it was the ceiling. So now you can think of him, he's floating above himself, and he's floating at his ceiling, right? I was floating against the ceiling, bouncing gently with any movement I made. I rolled in the air, startled, and looked down. There, in the dim light below me, was the bed. There were 2 figures lying in the bed. To the right was my wife. Beside her was someone else. Both seemed asleep. This was a strange dream, I thought. I was curious. Whom would I dream to be in bed with my wife? I looked more closely, and the shock was intense. I was the someone on the bed. My reaction was almost instantaneous. Here I was. There was my body. I was dying. This was death, and I wasn't ready to die. Somehow, the vibrations are killing me. Desperately, like a diver, I swooped down to my body and dove in. I then felt the bed and the covers, and when I opened my eyes, I was looking at the room from the perspective of my bed. So, folks, as we get deeper into the tapes, if you do them while you're lying in bed in your bedroom, you are going to have this experience. You are going to eventually have your first out-of-body experience, in the very first kind of level that you go to is just floating a few feet above your body. And normally it is about the height of your ceiling. And you can turn around and look at yourself if you like. Again, it's all in your imagination. You're imagining these things happen, but it feels like they're happening for real. And that's the very interesting part. That's that part that where science, we're not at a place where we can actually, calculate this. Is it really happening? Can we scientifically observe these things happening for real, or is it just part of our imagination? Is it a hallucination? I'm telling you, folks, I've had these experiences so many times, and it feels pretty darn real to me. Now, he does say that he kind of, bumped up against his ceiling. Now, that's something I've never occurred. Nothing that I've ever really ran into has felt solid or anything like that. It's a very interesting way. I have felt things, but just not in a solid way. It's kind of hard to describe. It's very dreamlike, because again, this is our kind of it's all happening in a dreamlike state. So we'll dive into that more, and hopefully, as we go through this and you start to have your experiences, we can share them together, and maybe we can start to understand a little bit more of when we run into something or when we feel something. Are we physically feeling it, or is it more just the idea that we've felt it? Is it the thought that we have felt something, right? Let's see. So Dr. Monroe went and talked to another doctor who was a psychologist, right? Because, of course, he again was very worried about these situations. And that doctor said this. He said, some of the fellows who practice yoga in those Eastern religions claim they can do it whenever they want to. And I asked him, do what? And he said, why, get out of the physical body for a while, he replied. They claim they can go all over the place. You ought to try it. Okay. So he went and talked to another medical doctor. And that medical doctor brought up yoga and yogis, right? This idea of going and practicing meditation for 20 and 30 years, living in a far off land at the top of the hill. That's what he's talking about. He's saying that these things, that these, philosophers and practitioners of Eastern religions have been doing for probably millennia now, we're figuring it out here in a scientific way. And that's amazing. We're going to see that more and more as we go through this. Again, I've described these tapes, the Gateway Experience tapes, as a scientific way to learn magic. So let's see. Okay, he talks more about the vibrations, and he says, okay, he wanted to really start to experiment with it. And again, he's allowing himself to, instead of being afraid when these experiences start, he's going to allow himself to go through and experience them more. And he's talking about the vibrations here. And he says, the vibrations came and went 6 more times before I got up the courage to try to repeat the experience. So now he is consciously going to try to repeat this. When I did, it was anticlimactic. With the vibrations in full force, I thought of floating upward, and I did. Okay, so now he gets into this natural phenomenon of falling asleep. The vibration starts to happen. And now he says to himself, I'm consciously going to float upwards. And he did that. I smoothly floated up over the bed. And when I willed myself to stop, I did, floating in midair. He was able to will himself consciously control his out-of-body experience. Okay. These are the skills that we're going to learn in these tapes. This is why we do them. It was not a bad feeling at all, but I was nervous about falling suddenly. After a few seconds, I thought myself downward, and a moment later, I felt myself in bed again, with all normal physical senses fully operating. There had been no discontinuity in consciousness from the moment I lay down in bed until I got up after the vibrations faded. If it wasn't real, just a hallucination or dream, I was in trouble. I couldn't tell where wakefulness stopped and dreaming began. Again, no discontinuity in consciousness. That's the beauty of listening to the tapes. So when I listened to the tape prior to recording here, there was no discontinuity of consciousness, right? I was conscious throughout the entire tape. My mind wandered here and there a few times, and I kind of had to remind myself to stay focused. But there was no unconsciousness like when you're asleep. I was fully conscious the whole time, even though I was listening to myself almost snoring. I was feeling my body be completely asleep. Again, the tape was about 35 minutes long. I was laying there with my puppy Leo all curled up in my lap. And I know that I was in a deep, relaxive type sleep, right? But I was conscious throughout the whole time, listening to the instruction of Dr. Robert Monroe, listening to the sounds of whether it was the ocean waves or the binaural beats, right? You're consciously awake while you are in this deep, relaxive state. So, Chapter 2, Search and Research. And again, folks, Episode 1 was a long one. I'm going to try to keep these episodes to an hour or less. I know that I'm asking a lot of you in this series, not only to listen to the Mind War episodes, right? But then to go out and listen to the Gateway Experience tape, whichever one we're working on this, each week. Reading through Dr. Monroe's books and hopefully taking notes on your experiences. There's a lot to do here. So I hope everyone enjoyed episode 1. We went really deep. We got a lot of information, but again, I hope to keep future episodes a little bit shorter here. So again, chapter 2, Search and Research. Here's a part that I found interesting. Even after I determined that there was no physiological cause and that I was no more insane than most of my fellow men, the fears persisted. It was a defect, illness, or deformity that had to be hidden from normal people. There was no one to talk about the problem other than the occasional meeting with Dr. Bradshaw, the doctor we mentioned earlier. The only other solution seemed to be some form of psychotherapy. But a year or 5 or 10 of daily interviews costing thousands of dollars with no promised results didn't seem very efficient. It was very lonely in those early days. Okay. So, as you start to listen to the tapes and you start to have these experiences, I promise you it is going to be lonely. It is going to be difficult, okay? And I say that because of my experiences, what I lived through. When I started this journey in January of 2022, when I started listening to these tapes in a very methodical way over and over and over again and started having these experiences over and over and over again, I was so excited. I wanted to tell everyone. I wanted to scream it from the rooftops. I told family and friends about it, and they did not receive it quite as I had hoped. They really didn't like what they were hearing, and it was very unfortunate, right? And again, it was, like we learned in Mind War Season 1, when we learned about, going through changes in your life, sometimes they need to be done covertly, and that's okay. You can be your own covert special agent in your life, changing your own life without bringing everyone in your life into what you're doing. Allow yourself to make some growth first. Allow yourself to start to implement some of these changes. Make sure that they are secure and that you're actually going to fulfill them and carry them on in the long term. And then you can start to propagandize those around you about what you're doing. But again, it's going to be kind of lonely in the beginning. And so one of the things that we're going to see here in chapter 2 is a lot like what we talked about in season 2 with the first Earth Battalion, when we read through that book and learned and talked about creating a small group of people, like-minded individuals who appreciate what you're doing, have had some of the same experiences, and are doing some of the same things that you've done. And that's why I'm doing this work. My hope is that together, as we work through these things, whether we meet each other or whether you meet other people who are fans of the mind war and are working through this process, my hope is that you can start to communicate together so we're not going to feel so alone in the beginning. And we can share with each other the experiences that we're having and keep each other grounded in what we're doing. Because again, the things that we're going to experience and the feelings that we're going to have, they can be very exciting as it happens, but they can also be very real and explained in very real, simplistic ways. And it's important to, again, keep our feet on the ground as we astral travel. Let's see. In my superficial reading of past and present Western philosophies and religions, I found vague references and generalities. Some seem to fit as somebody's attempt to describe or explain similar incidents. Biblical and Christian writings often offered many of these, all without specific causes or cures. The best advice seemed to be to pray, meditate, fast, go to church, absolve my sins, accept the Trinity, believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, resist evil, or resist not evil, and give myself to God. All of this did nothing but add to the conflict. If this new thing in my life was good, i.e. a gift, then it evidently belonged to saints, or at least saintly types, according to religious history. I felt that qualification for sainthood was certainly above and beyond me. With this if this new thing was evil, then it was the work of the devil, or at least of a demon, trying to possess or dispossess me, and should be exorcised. Again, this is what you're going to come up against if you start to talk about this with friends and family who are very religious. They're going to see it as demonic, satanic. They're going to think you're practicing witchcraft instead of looking at it as, number one, very scientific in what we're doing, and number two, realizing that the people that they admire in their religious teachings, all their religious heroes, they were having the same experiences. They were doing what we are doing, okay? They were called saints back then. They were raised on the shoulders of normal men, thought to be, crowned in the heavens with all kinds of special gifts. It's basic scientific things that we're doing here, this deep relaxative state, and we are going to learn the skills, and we are going to go beyond those who even were writing in the Bible. In the Eastern religions, I found more acceptance of the idea, as Dr. Bradshaw had indicated. There was much talk of the existence of a non-physical body. Again, such a condition of being was the product of great spiritual development. Only masters, gurus, and other long-trained holy men had the ability to leave their physical bodies temporarily to achieve indescribable mystical insights. There was no details and no pragmatic explanation of what was meant by spiritual development. It's just implied that that in the practices of secret cults, sects, lama series, etc., such details were common knowledge. Again, In Eastern religions and Eastern philosophies, this idea of having an out-of-body experience was much more, welcomed, and it was explored much deeper. And it's interesting because in Western religions, which is mostly the Judeo-Christian West, right? We talk about spirits and souls all the time. You think that Western religions would be more open to this type of thing, but again, they normally think of it as demonic or satanic. It was at this point I discovered the existence of an underground in the United States. The only factor missing is that no laws exist against its function, nor is there official persecution and prosecution involved. This underground only occasionally intermingles in part with the worlds of business, science, politics, academia, and the so-called arts. Furthermore, it definitely is not limited to the United States, but infiltrates all the Western civilization. Again, so now he's talking about outside of mainstream religions and outside of mainstream business and all of those type of things, there is an underground of people who practice this type of stuff, who research this type of stuff. Welcome to the underground, folks. That's what we're doing. This is your First Earth Battalion. This is the underground groups who have to meet in secret in order to pass on this type of knowledge, okay? But we're not going to be afraid of it anymore. We're doing it here on social media, on some of the biggest platforms in the world today. We are hiding in plain sight. This knowledge is now available to anyone who will listen. We're going to learn more about that. Many people may have heard of it vaguely or casually, have come in contact with it and passed it off as just people with queer ideas. For one thing, it is usually certain members of this underground who are respected in their communities don't talk about the interest or beliefs that qualify them for membership unless they know you too are in the club. Remember, I said in season 1, when you listen to these tapes, when you start to have those experiences that we are going to have together, you are going to be part of a very special elite club of people. My guess is only tens of thousands of people throughout history have actually been able to control these experiences and have them. So again, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, and that would be very generous. So this is a very small, elite group of folks. Welcome to the club. I suspect that the membership may run into millions if all would admit to their qualification. Now, when he says millions of people, that may be millions of people who have had a once-in-a-lifetime experience. One time they experienced some out-of-body experience, right? They've done some type of astral travel. Again, often when someone is sick or something like that, they're dealing with a surgery or some type of accident. These things can happen, right? But it only happens once in their lifetime, and then they just kind of go on with it. But again, we're doing something different. We are those pioneers. We are the astral astronauts, right? We are out here purposely, scientifically, over and over and over again, practicing this so we can start to control these skills. They are found in all walks of life. And all the qualifications of an underground movement. They gather in small groups quietly and often semi-secret. Again, your First Earth Battalion, your little team of like-minded individuals in your area or just in your social media circle. Again, we can create these little teams of individuals and friends. It doesn't have to be someone you are physically in contact with. My guess is as we get through the gateway experience and move into our spiritual practices, being physically in the same area with someone will make our work even more powerful, but we'll get to that in the future. At this moment, the underground is highly disorganized. In fact, there is no organization whatsoever in the usual sense of the word. Rarely even have the local groups gone so far as to adopt a title or name for themselves. Again, when you start to get with your groups and when you start to get with your friends and start to do this stuff, I think you should. I think you should name your group. I think you should come up with your own symbols, or for a small fee, you can borrow my symbols, right? These are important things. These are tools that we're going to use as we move forward. And again, there's no reason to hide. We're going to celebrate these things with like-minded individuals. But for people who maybe not want to explore these type of paranormal type ideas as much as we do, we're going to be very cautious in communicating it to them. But again, those who love it, we're going to dive deep together. Let's see. So far, they are simply small but regular gatherings held in someone's living rooms or in a bank's conference room, or quite possibly a church rectory. Oh man, isn't that interesting? If you're a member of a church and you start to have these experiences, and you start to do these type of things, this type of work, the type of work that the other participants in your church might think are demonic or satanic or evil in some way, if you find other people in your church who are starting to do those, and now you have a little secret membership in your own church who are practicing this, I love that idea, folks. The group of individuals is groping in the dark and seems to take many diverse pathways, yet the goal is the same for all. However, like other kinds of underground movements, if you have become a member and you visit another city, you inevitably meet other members. It isn't planned, it just happens. Folks, as we go through this, as you start to become more serious about not only the scientific work that we're going to do with the Gateway experience, but how we can then apply those to our spiritual practices, this idea of amazing things just happening, oh boy, it starts to happen over and over and over again. Things where the word coincidence cannot apply. It goes far beyond coincidence. I'm not quite sure what word to use yet, but we're going to figure it out because some very amazing things have happened to me personally. So let's see. Who then makes up the mass of the underground? Contrary to what one might expect, they are not merely a conglomerate of silly, uneducated, superstitious, unreasoning misfits. Now, we are definitely misfits, folks, but true. Some people may be, what he just described, but at no greater percentage than is found in the general population. As a matter of fact, if it could be surveyed, it is quite probable that their average IQ would be far above that of the general cross-section of Western humanity. That's right. If you're here, you are here in the Mind War. You're down here in the Mind War studios with me, and we are studying these topics. And my guess is you have a higher IQ. You are smarter in so many ways than a lot of other people, okay? The reason is because if you are even willing to look into these type of things, if you are willing to even take that next step, that's what science is all about, studying things that we don't know. And the problem that we see in Western society today is people just say, hey, I only study what is known. I only want to know what is known. I only want to learn what someone has learned before me, right? Those things are very important. Of course, we need to know the basics, the fundamentals of science and life. Of course, that's what brought us here today. But now, again, we are those pioneers. We are looking further. We are exploring the things that just haven't been scientifically proven yet. And our goal isn't to prove them. That's not what we're doing here. We're not here to prove it to the rest of the world that it works. All we need to do is experience it. That's why we're here. The common bond or cause that draws them together is simple. All have a belief that, number one, man's inner self is neither understood nor fully expressed in our contemporary society. Okay? Again, our inner self is neither understood nor fully expressed in contemporary society. In fact, I think today, in contemporary society, the idea of even thinking about the inner self is still frowned upon by the majority of people. And this is the weird part. It's not just the religious today that tell us that we shouldn't look to the inner self and explore these type of experiences, right? But now it's more of just like the brain dead, sports fans and alcoholics and just people that just want to make their paycheck and all that type of stuff. They're so focused on just the normal, things in life. Anything that comes in that would affect that normalcy in their life, that would go against the mainstream, they don't want anything to do with it. And in a way, although they may not be religious, they hold a religious fervor against it. Because if you start to bring up these things to them, it starts to make them question what they're really doing and show how shallow their lives truly are. Let's see. Number 2, the inner self has capabilities to act and perform mentally and materially to a degree unknown and recognized by modern science. Okay. That means the inner self, again, that spirit, that soul, we are able to do things with that spirit that, modern science still just doesn't accept, or again, we haven't been able to calculate it and monitor it, right? But we can do things outside of the body, which are very difficult to explain, but that's okay. We're here for the experience. And through the experience, we're going to be able to have a better understanding of what we're actually doing. These are people whose prime avocation is to read, talk, think, discuss, and participate in anything psychic or spiritual. This is all that is needed for membership. Perhaps you are in the club and didn't realize it. Folks, if you're here in the Mind War, you're in the club, okay? If you're listening, if you're participating, you're in the club, and I'm glad to have you. Let's see here. So this paragraph here talks about astral projection. And again, that doctor that Dr. Monroe was visiting gave him an idea about astral projection. He says this, astral projection to the uninitiated is a term given to the technique of leaving one's physical body temporarily and moving about in a non-material or astral body. Many connotations have been given to the word astral and many interpretations, scientific and otherwise. The word scientific is used cautiously because the modern scientific world, in the West at least, neither recognizes nor is seriously aware of even the possibility of such things. Western medical science just doesn't want to deal with any of this stuff. They just don't. And we are going to push against that. We're going to push through that. Okay? We're going to understand how important it is to do these practices and learn these skills and not allow ourselves to be railroaded by modern science. Because again, folks, the things here, there isn't really any money involved at this point. We've talked about the weapons of mind war. You need some over-the-ear headphones. You need some eye covers, a couple of copies of the books. I've already told you where you can get these for free. And again, copies of the Gateway Experience tapes that are on YouTube. Links to those channels that have the tapes available for free are in the description of this video. There isn't money involved here. I'm not making money off of this unless you want to get some fresh gear from Victory Work Apparel. Let me know. I'm excited to help you with that. Or if you want to join me over at Patreon, at patreon.com/mindwar. That's the only way that I can make any money off of this. This isn't something where, there are boards of directors and all type of, stockholders and stuff that we need to make sure that they're happy. That's not what we're doing here. None of that is involved. Think about that. There are very few aspects of your life where money isn't involved in the driving force of it. That's the beauty of this, folks. We're doing this together. It's outside of the normal systems of life. It's outside of those normal systems that drive our daily lives. That's the beauty. Because when we do that, when we step outside of it, and then we start to do a deep dive into what all of this really means and learn the skills and master the skills here, it's amazing where it's going to lead us all, I promise. In the obscure history of mankind, it is entirely different matter. The word astral has dim origins in early mystical and occult events, which involve witchcraft, sorcery, incantations, and other seemingly foolishness, which modern man looks upon as silly and superstitious nonsense, as no attempt was made to delve deeply into this area. I still don't know what the word astral means. Thus, I prefer to stick to the terms second body and second state. So Dr. Monroe does call our astral body, our spirit, the second body. And this is amazing. I may not have mentioned this already, but Dr. Robert Monroe and his team at the Monroe Institute coined the term out-of-body experience. They came up with OBE, right? That's where it started, is with these guys. If that gives you any indication of how serious they are, these are the beginning. Again, they are pioneers in their own way, bringing this to the scientific community, right? And again, he says that these are normally involved with witchcraft, sorcery, and things like that. Well, guess what, folks? Again, when we learn these basics, the scientific way to learn magic, the things that we learn here in future seasons of Mind War, when we start to get into the spiritual, when we start to get into witchcraft and things like that, you'll see how they play together, how there really is a crossover between these worlds. In order to perform this miraculous feat, one had to be arduously trained, or better still, spiritually developed, according to the occultists. These teachings have supposedly been handed down secretly through history to enlighten those who had become advanced enough to receive them. Evidently, from time to time, there were those who revealed the secret or accidentally learned the technique. In the past, they have been canonized, castigated, cremated, laughed at, and locked up for such public revelation. This doesn't make the future seem very promising in my case. So that was a very interesting paragraph when he says that these teachings have been handed down secretly through history to enlighten those who have become advanced enough to receive them. I believe that he is talking about secret societies. We all know about the secret societies. I don't even need to get into them. If you're watching Mind War, you've already gone down that rabbit hole. You know about the secret societies. You've wanted to learn what they teach their members, those who they deem worthy of the knowledge. Well, guess what, folks? It is all of humanity that is worthy of this knowledge. This is the gift to human beings. They have no right to hide this information from you. And that's why I am here today as Victor, the occult technician, your occult buddy here. I am trying to teach you these things. I am, what he says here, as a somebody who from time to time has revealed the secret, or accidentally learned the technique. This wasn't necessarily an accident, because I purposely set out to learn these things. But so many men before me have also done that. They've went and spent their entire lives trying to have these experiences, but never have, right? They got caught up in the mess, in the symbolism, in all the nonsense words, and they were trying to stay too focused on the secret societies and learning what they did, right? You don't need to do that. It's unnecessary. The symbolism that you see out there is real, and I will explain it to you as we go through. I'll explain at least what I've learned from it, right? But they do that on purpose. The reason that they make these esoteric stories so confusing, the reason that they add so much symbolism is to literally throw you off the path. They don't want you to learn these things. And that's why he says here that folks like myself who break the rules and try to teach you these skills openly, again, for free. I'm putting this stuff out here. The tapes are free. The books are free. Okay. All you have to do is put the time and effort in, and you will learn these things. Okay. People like myself are often demonized, canonized, castigated, cremated, laughed at, and locked up for our public revelation. Okay. Well, folks, I'm going to be down here every week in the Mind War studios making these videos for you. Okay. I'm going to continue to do this. I'm not going to hide this information anymore. It needs to be brought out to the people, to all of you, to all of us. It's humanity's gift. It's not the gift of some uber rich elites who are going to pass down these tools to one another. No, these can be shared with everyone. Everyone who has an open mind, everyone who has the ability to actually do them. This is your gift. Okay, we can all have it. So that was chapter 2, Search and Research, of the book Journeys Out of the Body by Dr. Robert Monroe. Again, we learned that when you first start this experience and you start down this path, this journey, remember, we're going to be learning a lot of interesting things, but be careful about sharing them with people in your life. You don't want them to get scared or, think you're doing something weird that would go against their belief systems. Again, we've learned all about that in season 1 of Mind War. And then in chapter 2, it actually kind of fell in line with what we learned in season 2 when we looked at the 1st Earth Battalion about finding like-minded individuals that you can share your experiences with, that you can work together with and not be afraid of what we're learning, okay? Because we're going to be learning and experiencing these things together. So folks, when we get back, we're going to do a deep dive into tape 2 or wave 1, tape 2, which is titled Intro to Focus 10, and we'll do that after a word from our sponsor. Mind War is sponsored by Victory Work Apparel. Use promo code Mind War. Okay, welcome back, folks. So we are going to read through Wave 1, Tape 2, which is titled Intro to Focus 10. So, again, in the first episode, we learned what is called the preparatory process, okay? These are the steps that we're going to take at the beginning of every tape that are going to prepare us to go through the gateway. I guess that's the best way to explain it, okay? The first thing that we learned is our energy conversion box. We have the box. We visualize it in our minds, okay? Inside the box, we put all of our worries, our stresses, our concerns, our physical body, everything that we're worried about, we put it in this box. We're imagining this in our mind. We're putting all of those worries and stresses in the box. We're putting the lid on them because we don't need those things during this exercise. We don't need to be worrying about the normal things in our lives while we're going and doing this, okay? So we put them in the box, we put the lid on them, and then we turn our backs on it. The symbolic nature of turning your back on your worries is so powerful, okay? Next is the resonant tuning, okay? This is the breathing exercise where, again, you're going to, for me personally, I visualize myself in a cave, in a big dark cave. There's other cloaked men all around, like in a movie, because as you go through this phase, you start to hear in your headphones, it sounds like there are people all around you. and they are doing this kind of humming noise. And what you hear and what Dr. Monroe instructs you to do is to breathe deeply. And then through your exhale, you're going to do your resonant tuning, which sounds something like this. Right? You're going to do this over and over again. And while you do it, you're going to hear what sounds like so many other people around you doing it at the same time. Different tones and frequencies as they do it. And it sounds, because of the nature of your over-the-ear headphones, it sounds 3D. It sounds like there are people standing to the left and right of you, in front and in back of you. It's very interesting. It's an amazing feeling. And really the purpose of this is that breathing exercise. That's honestly all he wants you to do, is to take some deep breaths and really get into that relaxed state. So let's see. Let's read through. This is your exercise to achieve focus 10, the 10 state, where your mind remains awake and alert and your physical body is deeply asleep. So remember, like I said in episode 1, anytime you hear the word focus, in tape 1, it's focus 3 is what he teaches us. Now in tape 2, he's going to teach us focus 10. Focus is just another word for hypnosis. This is the process of becoming hypnotized. We are allowing ourselves to be hypnotized through this process, okay? This preparatory process. In the beginning, as we're going to see with this tape, Dr. Monroe guides us through it with his voice, using his words. He's going to guide us through this preparatory process. But what you're going to find as we go into future episodes or future tapes, right, in future episodes of the Mind War podcast, what we find is that he doesn't need to walk us through each individual step anymore, because we are accustomed to doing it now, because we are mastering these techniques. He, in the beginning of the tape, will simply say things like, start your preparatory process. And when he does that, this is what he means. He means going through the steps of your energy conversion box, going through the steps of your resonant tuning, and going. Now, instead of having him talk you into the hypnotic state, you're now going to hypnotize yourself. And again, it's such an amazing state of being. It's such a beautiful feeling. Your body is asleep, fully deep asleep, relaxed, no pain. But your mind is wide awake. And again, for those of you who suffer from pain in your daily life, you understand how difficult it is to even have a clear thought, because your pain is constantly distracting you. But when you get in this state of being, this focus 10, and as we go deeper, the deeper levels of focus, this deeper levels of hypnosis, you're going to find that you can become, that you can be in this state of being where you are physically free from your pain, because your body is in deep sleep, but your mind is still wide awake, and it allows you to think clearly for the first time in a long time. My voice should be in your right ear at this moment. If not, turn your headphones around. Okay, so we understand the importance there. There are tones in both ears. Make sure the volume is comfortable, and now move your body into a relaxed position, free of strain points, as you listen to the sound of natural power of the ocean surf. Again, laying in bed, I found, is the best way to use this. Today, I was in the recliner. It still felt great, but being in bed, I think, is the best way. Personally, I like to put a pillow under my knees and have a nice pillow that is able to hold my neck up. You're going to lay on your back, legs straight, arms straight, and don't cross your legs. Don't cross your arms, because that's going to do is what he calls here a strain point. That's going to create a strain point where it might feel good when you first lay down to cross your legs, but after 15 minutes, when your ankles are rubbing against each other, that might start to hurt. And again, the main goal is kind of lose connection, this access to your physical body, these feelings. You're going to get into a position where you don't feel these things anymore, and that allows us to more easily leave the body, right? Move now to your energy conversion box. Move to your energy conversion box, the anxieties and concerns. Let's see. Okay, let's see. And raise the heavy lid. Place in the box all of your physical matter, worries, and anxieties and concerns. You will not need them during the exercise, and they will simply get in the way. It's so beautiful how he puts it. Such a simple, kind of poetic way. And he has such a great voice, folks. When you listen to the tapes, he's such a calm, gentle soul, right? He's such a great person to listen to. In fact, this is kind of, silly, but when I first listened to tape 1 again, and it was the first time in a long time, I actually started crying when I heard Dr. Monroe's voice. It was so comforting to hear from him again. I hadn't listened to the tapes in a few months before we started this series, and I really had grown to want to listen to the tapes again, and it was so comforting to hear him, right? Let's see. When you have all of them in your box, close the heavy lid tightly and turn away from your energy conversion box. And do this now, and he allows you to do it. Then begin your resonant tuning. As you inhale, breathe in fresh energy and move it up to your head. So again, remember, as you're laying there starting your resonant tuning, you're going to breathe in through your nose. And as you do that, you're going to picture fresh, bright, white energy flowing in from your feet, going upwards through your body. And this is now where you can start to picture your chakras being recharged with this bright, fresh energy. And you're going to bring that energy into your head, into your mind, and you're going to allow it to stay there for a moment before you start to, right? Use the resonant tuning skills as you exhale. Okay, again, this is just simple breathing techniques. But there truly is, when you add a visualization to it, there's a purpose behind it. There's a skill to it, and that's what we're going to be learning and practicing. As you exhale, blow out the stale used energy and hum or sing in resonance. Begin now and set your own pattern to complete the resonant tuning. So that goes on for about a minute or two. You kind of hear everyone else kind of humming along with you. And then when you come out of it, he says, breathe normally and relax. Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body because I am more than physical matter. So again, he leads us through that mantra, reminding us. He's reminding us. And it's you can tell he's using hypnosis on us at this point. Right? You can tell he is when he's telling you, you are more than your physical body, right? You are more than physical matter. Those words, they sink into you and they really help you understand that truth, okay? And it allows you to move on, right, to the next steps. So when he finishes with the mantra, he says, now you will move into focus 3. That's what we learned in the first tape. The state of coherent mind and brain as I count you from 1 to 3. When I reach the count of 3, you will be in focus 3 with your brain and mind in great synchronization. I'm going to count now. 1, 2, 3, relax. Relax and enjoy the synchronization of your mind and brain. So again, we learned that the brain, we think of that as the actual physical matter inside of our skull, right? But your mind is more like your consciousness or your spirit. And when you get into focus 3, that's that first step of being hypnotized, you see this synchronization of your mind and your conscience. Your mind and your spirit are now synchronized. They're working as one, where again, we kind of talked about before. Your mind, and this is what I think causes a lot of problems with us today. People that maybe suffer from depression or ADHD and things like that, right? Our mind is telling us, our spirit is telling us, We need to be going and doing these things. We need to do the exercise. We need to do our meditation. We need to go to work and do our work every day and put our full focus into it, right? But we can't, because our brain, again, that physical brain, the brain is listening to all the other signals coming from your senses. It's telling you that you're hungry, that you're tired, that you can't focus because of other needs that your body may have, right? And it's not allowing us to do the things that we want. And that's what causes depression, anxiety, ADHD, things like that, right? When in our mind, we think we should be doing something else, but our brain is reminding us, no, you can't do that right now because you're exhausted, because you're hungry, because of this, that, and the other. And folks, as an old guy like myself, I'm telling you, it gets more difficult as you get older. You know, we hear a lot about ADHD and depression and stuff in younger folks. It carries on as you get older, because now your body really starts to get tired and stuff like that. So you have to deal more. It's a lot more about timing. Your timing throughout your day, knowing, okay, when am I going to feel good enough to come down here to the Mind War Studios and record the next episode? I got to make sure that I am timing these things in order to physically be ready to do them, even though my mind is telling me every day, dude, go down there and record the next episode. Well, sometimes my physical body just isn't there to do it. But as you can see right now, again, calm, relaxed. I mean, kind of excited to do this because I love being down here in the Mind War Studios with all of you. But again, getting to this state where I'm at now is the result of a good night's sleep last night, some exercise and good food this morning, and again, listening to the Gateway Experience tape, Wave 1, Tape 2, before I came down here to record. So he reads you into focus 3, 1, 2, 3, relax, and then he says, now we're going to move to focus 10, the 10 state, where your mind is bright and awake and your body is calmly and deeply and comfortably asleep. One more time. Focus 10, the 10 state, where your mind is bright and awake and your body is calmly and deeply and comfortably asleep. Now, to reach focus 10, we will use the 10-point system of total relaxation. By the time you reach the count of 10, your body will be completely and totally relaxed in all parts and in all ways. Okay. Now, this is what's amazing about tape 1 or wave 1, tape 2. Okay. The first tape was called Orientation. I don't necessarily think that wave 1, tape 1 is something that you need to listen to over and over and over again. Like myself, kind of restarting the tapes again. I wanted to listen to it along with all of you. I thought that was important. But after you listen to it maybe once or twice, there isn't a lot of need to go back to that tape, that orientation tape, right? But Wave 1, Tape 2, this one that we're working on now, which is titled Intro to Focus 10, I think this is a tape that you can go back to over and over and over again. This is one that I've relied on several times to just get back to the basics, because what we're about to read through, this is where Dr. Monroe truly walks you through each step of the relaxation process to get you deeper and deeper into that relaxed state, and we'll show you how. He says, first, let your jaw go limp and relax. Let the muscles and nerves in your jaw go limp and relax. Okay, so now you're staying there, or you're laying there, right? You've got into focus 3, so now your body's asleep, your mind is still awake, but there's still some tension there. You're still not as deep as you need to get. So now he's going to walk us through individual parts of our body to get them deeper into that relaxed state. And the first thing he starts with is your jaw. And I'm telling you, folks, it's so wild. When you listen to it and he tells you to relax your jaw, all of a sudden you start to feel it. You're like, oh my gosh, your mouth, mine, opens up a little bit. So now I'm laying there like an old guy with my mouth open, kind of snoring, right? No big deal. We're getting into that relaxed state. Next, he says, now your eyelids, let the muscles and nerves in your eyelids relax and go limp. Now your lips, same thing. Allow the muscles and nerves in your lips to relax. And then your forehead, and then your cheeks, and then your scalp, and then the muscles in your neck. And finally, he says, let the muscles in your eyes, the muscles that control your eyes, let them relax, relax. You will know that he is hypnotizing you at this point. Each one of these different features on your face as he reads through them, right? Your lips, your brow, your forehead, your scalp, and then your eyes. As he reads this, you can feel each of those parts getting more and more relaxed, right? It's such an amazing feeling. And that's why I say go back to this tape over and over and over again for that refresher. There's been times where I've gone through advanced tapes, but I didn't really work my way through this point. These are really important to make sure that you're getting into that deep, relaxed state. So again, in this first part, he focuses on your head, which again, as each piece that he describes, it just gets deeper and deeper into this relaxation. It truly feels amazing. Now he says, now let this relaxation of your head, let the relaxation of your head and the muscles and nerves in your head, let it sink inward. Let it flow into your brain. Let the relaxation of your head flow into your brain. Let it sink easily and deeply into your brain. Feel it sinking inward, easily and calmly until your entire brain feels more and more relaxed. More and more relaxed as you feel the relaxation of your head sink inward into the nerves of your brain so that your brain feels relaxed, okay? So all of the physical sensations of relaxation that he walked you through with each part of your head, your facial features, your scalp, things like that, that relaxation, now you're going to allow it to sink internally into your mind, right? It's a beautiful feeling. You will feel it. You'll start to understand what he's talking about as you get deeper and deeper and deeper into the relaxation state. Now that your brain feels and understands this relaxation, that's a beautiful part, especially when you're new to this and you're listening to these tapes for the first few times. Your brain is going to understand how relaxed it actually is. He says, now as I count down to 10, let it flow from the brain, this relaxation, let it flow from the brain into every part of your physical body, into your toes, into your feet, your legs, your hips, your lower body, your upper body, into your back, your fingers, into your hands, into your arms, your shoulders. Let it flow into these parts as I guide you on to the 10 state. Okay, so now we've relaxed our face. We've sunk that relaxation into our mind. And so now you can think of this relaxation kind of swirling around in your mind. And now he's telling us, now we're going to distribute that relaxation to the rest of our body. And when he does, it is so amazing. And we'll walk through it now. He says, I'm going to count now. He starts with number 4. He starts with 4, right? Because he's already put us into focus 3 earlier. So now he says 4. Look with your closed eyes at your feet and your toes. Your brain tells the muscles and nerves in each foot and each toe to relax, let go, sleep. So look with your closed eyes. Again, you're laying down. You have the eye covers on. Your eyes are closed. We're 15 minutes deep at this point, okay? You're not going to be looking with your real eyes. You are, again, you're going to be in that darkness. You're going to be in that upside down world of Stranger Things, right? And you're going to imagine yourself looking down at your spirit body, looking down at your feet and telling your feet, time to relax, right? And then he says 5, look with your closed eyes at your legs, at each leg from your hip down to your foot, and your brain tells each legs to relax, let go, sleep. 6, you do the same thing with your hips. 7, you do the same thing with your lower body, your abdomen, right? He talks about your internal organs, telling them all to relax, let go, and sleep. This is what's amazing, folks. As you picture this in your mind, when he tells you to let your feet relax, all of a sudden, again, you're visualizing it. This is just imagination. And this is where it can be a little scary at first, but you will learn to love this feeling. But as you tell your feet to relax, guess what? They disappear. As you tell your legs to relax, they disappear into the darkness. They dissolve like some type of, computer animation. They float away, right? Your torso begins to float away. It begins to disappear. You don't even recognize it anymore. And this is what we're talking about, that we're not our physical body. When we're going to start getting prepared and ready to leave our physical body, we're going to wipe it away in this imagination of ours, in our mind, in this dark place that we're at, this darkness while we're floating there, visualizing our spirit body. We're telling each limb, each part of our body to relax and let go and to sleep, those hypnotic words, right? And it's going to, visually, through our imagination, start to disappear. 8, he says, do the same thing for your upper body, your chest, your heart, your lungs, your diaphragm. Your brain tells these parts to relax, let go, and sleep. 9, you're going to do the same thing with your back, the muscles of your back, and let go and sleep. And then he says 10, look with your closed eyes at your upper body, your arms, your hands, your fingers, your shoulders. They are going to relax, let go, and sleep. And then he says 10, 10, 10. And now, as you are there in this darkness, kind of floating there where you, again, were seeing your spiritual body, you were seeing it there, now it's gone. Now the heaviness of your body has disappeared. You just don't even feel it anymore. He says, relax and be calm and comfortable in focus 10, the 10 state, where your mind is bright and alert and your physical body is deeply, calmly, and comfortably asleep. And that's really all that it did. He's walking you through to consciously recognize your body falling asleep one body part at a time. It's beautiful. It feels amazing. Now, he says, at any time from this moment forward, when you desire to remain physically and mentally wide awake and alert, all you need to do is touch the fingers of your right hand to the back of your neck and repeat the number 1 in your mind. He's telling you. Now, basically, these are skills. This is amazing here. We're going to learn skills not only that we're going to do in the astral realm, the skills that we're going to do and learn and practice in this deep meditative state, but now he's giving us skills when we are in the conscious world, when we are in our conscious mind, going about our daily lives. If you find yourself being sluggish, starting to get tired, but you still need to do things, what he's telling you now is when you need to physically be and mentally be wide awake and alert, all you need to do is take the fingers of your right hand, put them on the back of your neck, and repeat the number 1 in your mind. 1, 1, 1. Now, why are we doing this? Because when he wakes us up from the hypnotic state and counts down from 10 to 1, 1 is the last number before him telling you to wake up, open your eyes, stretch your arms and legs, take a deep breath. When he's waking us up at the end of the tapes, 1 is the last number. 1 is going to be this representation for us of this deep or this really wide awake, alert, fully functioning physical person in real life, in consciousness. That's what 1 is going to represent for us. Whereas 10 is the deep relaxed state, that focus 10, that hypnotic 10, right? Here is a simple way to remember. This is a new skill, right? Or actually, here, let me finish up with that. When you do this, you will remain fully wide awake and alert, both physically and mentally. Wide awake and alert. The mock you do this method of remaining wide awake and alert in physical matter reality, the easier it will become. Oh, the more you do this, so the more we practice it, right? And again, this is something, this is one of those skills that outside of the tapes, throughout our daily life, we're going to want to practice this skill over and over again. Our right hand on the back of the neck, remembering the number 1 in our mind, and it's going to help us remember what it means to be fully wide awake and fully alert. Here's another skill. Here is a simple way to remember any part of your life experience. Okay, now this is strange. When you want to remember something in your life, when you're thinking back to something in your past, if you want to remember it, here's how you can do it. Whenever you desire in your conscious physical waking state, you will remember that which you desire to remember. When you close your physical eyes and touch softly the fingers of your right hand to the center of your forehead, to remember completely that which you desire to remember in the conscious waking state. Close your physical eyes and touch the fingers of your right hand gently to the center of your forehead. When you do this, you will recall and remember immediately that which you consciously desire to remember. The more you use this way to remember, the easier and more quickly you will be able to recall. So now, when you want to remember something, he's saying, take the fingers of your right hand, touch your forehead, and think about what you want to remember, okay? Think about it. Think about what you want to remember. Now, I know it sounds silly, but again, the more you practice it, the better it's going to work. An example is, like a lot of men, we wander around the house looking for things that we believe that we've lost or misplaced, right? And so one day I was looking for a tool, one that I had put away weeks ago and just had no idea where I had set it. And I'm kind of wandering around the house going, where did I put that? Looking through my toolbox and stuff, couldn't find it. And then I decided, you know what? I gotta just do this. Do what Dr. Monroe said. Practice the skills. I did this. I sat and I stood there and I said, okay, where is this? What did I do with it? It popped right into my mind. The tool I had set on a shelf in my bedroom. This was not where this tool belonged. It's not where I normally keep it. I had just set it down while I was working on a project and forgot that it was there. Okay? There was no reason for me to remember that it was really there, right? But sure enough, as soon as I just focused my mind, and that's all this is, putting your hand to your head and all that, it's almost a placebo. It's just a way for us to get outside of this idea that we can't find what we're looking for, right? It distracts us for a moment. And it's that moment of distraction where the truth comes in. And we remember, oh, that's where it really is. And that's a trick that we're going to learn. That's a skill that we're going to learn more and more. This idea of refocusing your brain through some type of distraction, a distraction that we purposely, consciously put onto ourselves. Not like being distracted by our phones or something going on in life, but using a tool like this to purposely distract ourselves for a moment and distract ourselves from this idea that we can't find something, that we are now being negative to ourselves, like, damn, where did I put that thing? Why can't I remember it? Now I'm frustrated, right? We're going to distract ourselves from those type of negative thoughts and remember, okay? Let's see. When you return to full physical waking reality, waking reality, your body will be so equalized. Okay, now this is something that Dr. Monroe talks us through at the end of most tapes, okay? And what he's doing is, again, this is part of that hypnotic process, the part of hypnosis. But what he's doing is he's saying, here's the state of physical and mental and spiritual being that you are going to be when you wake up from this tape, okay? Instead of saying, when you wake up, you're going to quack like a duck every time someone says rainbow or whatever, right? He's going to say, this is what you're going to feel like when you come out of this hypnotic state. And he says here, your body will be so equalized as to overcome all those things that might hinder or prevent it from being and giving its best mental, spiritual, and physical self, healing the mind, body, and spirit. The body physical will create within the system those properties necessary to cause the eliminations to be so increased as to bring the best normal physical condition for your body. Again, all of those, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it right now, but there is a scientific word that describes all the functions that your organs are going through, our non-conscious parts of our living being, right? Our heart beats without us thinking about it. We can think about our breath. Breathe in, hold your breath, breathe out, right? We can think about those things, but we can't think about our heart beating. We can't say in our minds, all right, heart beat. Okay, heart, stop beating. All right, stomach, digest my food. Okay, stop digesting. We can't think of those. We can't control those things, right? So really what this does is it's kind of a way to communicate with those parts of our body that we don't control, more that our subconscious controls, more, again, I'll try to find the word. There's a word for it of your body functions, in an unconscious way, those things that go on inside of you that you have no control over. This is a way of communicating them to be their very best. Let's see, the mental will so give that impression to the system as to build the most normal mental and physical forces for your body. The circulation will be equalized as to remove any strain from all centers of the nerve system, as to allow the organs of the system to assimilate and secrete properly those conditions necessary for normal conditions of the body. Again, he's telling your gallbladder to do its job properly. He's telling your liver, filter that stuff out, darn it, and you're going to do it in a healthy and productive way. He's talking to our internal organs. And we're doing that. We're allowing that positive reinforcement. I know it sounds silly, folks, but we are giving our organs a pep talk, because a physical body being healthy is also what we're going here. Healing the mind, body, and spirit. We have to remember all of those things work together. The nerve supplies of the whole body will assume their normal forces. Now, a lot of people, that's where our physical pain comes from, our nervous system, right? And so he's saying, listen, chill out, nerves. That pain in your back, your lower back, right? For me right now, lower back needs a stretching, okay? These are the type of things where we're going to tell it, calm down, relax your nervous system, and start functioning properly. The vitality will be stored in them through the application of the physical being as well as the spiritual elements in the physical forces of the body. Perfectly normal and perfectly balanced will be the condition when you return to the physical waking state. Perfectly normal, perfectly balanced, and perfectly equalized will be the condition when you return to the physical waking state. Now, he says, you will return now to full waking physical reality as I count from 10 down to 1. And when I reach the count of 1, all of your 5 physical senses will be operating clearly, cleanly, sharply, and beautifully. You will be completely refreshed, both physically and mentally, and wide awake and alert, both physically and mentally. I am going to count down now. 10, 9, 8, 7. When I reach the count of 1, all of your physical senses will be operating clearly, cleanly, sharply, and beautifully. You will be completely wide awake, both physically and mentally, feeling refreshed and better in every way. When I reach the count of 1. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wake up. Open your eyes. Breathe deeply. Stretch your arms and legs. And that is the end of this exercise. So again, We are giving ourselves, we are giving our physical body this pep talk. We are telling it that when we wake up from our hypnotic state, we're going to be wide awake mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, right? And now, throughout so much of our lives, through the consumption of media, it's very rare that we hear these type of words. Even in our religious settings, we're not hearing this type of positive affirmations to just the simplest core of what we really are, what truly makes us up, this physical being that we have to live with for the rest of our lives. And it really is, it's comforting to hear it. And it truly does feel amazing when you come out. Because again, as a reminder, when Dr. Monroe tells you to wake up, you have to wake up. No matter how tired you are. You may be listening to these tapes and find yourself falling asleep. That's not the purpose of these tapes. There is one tape that kind of just trails off and he never wakes you up and allows you to stay in the deep sleep for the rest of the night. And that's fine. We'll get to that tape. But for the rest of the time, when it's time for you to wake up, you wake up right away. And it truly does feel amazing. You do feel wide awake and alert, and he does really snap you out of it. But what I find, again, is that residual kind of vibration feeling is still there. And that's a really great time to kind of understand what he means by that vibrational feeling. So folks, that was Wave 1, Tape 2. The title of that one is Intro to Focus 10. So that's the one that we're going to be working on this next week. So before the next episode of Mind War, please listen to Wave 1, Tape 1, Intro to Focus 10. We're going to read chapters 1 and 2 from Journeys Out of the Body. I appreciate all of you joining me here for Mind War Season 3 as we go through the Gateway experience. This is going to be very exciting. As we go through seasons 3, 4, and 5, we're going to work our way through all of the tapes, through all of Dr. Monroe's books, and we are going to experience together. So remember, folks, harden your hearts and open your minds, because this is Mind War.